Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Ring, the company owned by Amazon that provides surveillance cameras, has launched a new contest. And what does that contest entail? Well, if you're able to capture a actual extraterrestrial on one of your Ring cameras during this next month, and you could scientifically prove that it's an extraterrestrial, you will win $1 million. So that means nobody's going to win $1 million. Amazon's going to get to keep its money because nobody's going to win that money. It's not going to happen. These extraterrestrials are 10, 20, 30, 100, 1,000, a million steps ahead of us. Their technology exceeds anything that we have. And as many of you know, it's very difficult to capture them on camera. The aliens themselves, it's one thing trying to capture the UFOs on camera, but it's another thing trying to actually capture the extraterrestrials. That's a whole nother ball of wax. The best evidence that we have, as everyone out there knows, are the Turkey UFO videos from 2007, 2008, and 2009. In those videos, there was a Turkish fisherman captured these objects floating out over the sea during various different occasions, with witnesses on many of those, during many of these events, of a ship, of some sort of a saucer floating out above the sea. We don't know how far out it was. It looked like it could have been a mile out, but he had a good camera with a good zoom function on it, and he captured these craft. And in some of the videos, of course, as we all know, there are extraterrestrial beings are present. You could see them. They're visible. It looked like there were grays. There looked like there were insectoids. Looked like in one of the images, it looked like there was two grays hovering over a man or a woman, I don't know. It looked like a human being laying on a table, and there were two creatures hovering over him, and while there was a praying mantis being standing off to the side. So this contest is a joke as far as I'm concerned. Nobody's going to win. These beings, it's very difficult to capture them on camera. There have been many pictures that have been taken over the years. I've talked about them on this podcast numerous times, different events. There was one in Alaska that I remember talking about, among others. It's hard to tell. We really don't know. But these beings know what they're doing. I mean, just recently we were talking about the first episode of the new Encounters Netflix documentary series from Steven Spielberg's Amblin Television. And in that first episode, it talked about the Stephenville, Texas sightings of 2008. And there was a constable who had actually saw some strange object hovering in the sky, and he pointed his dash camera at it, and he was able to get some footage of it, but it malfunctioned. The camera kept on malfunctioning, and it came out. It didn't come out right. You couldn't really see anything in it. You saw a blurry light in there, and then the camera would blink out and then come back on. It was going off and on, and it never did that before. And that he was using VHS tape at the time. That was right before that police department moved to digital video. But it doesn't matter. There's been other cases where people tried to film things with cell phones, with the recent technology that we have, and sometimes the cell phones just fail to operate. So this is not going to work. There's going to be no winner here, and that's all I can really say about it. But anyway, we're going to go through an article that talks about this. Now, this is from Vice, and this article doesn't like... The people running Vice obviously don't like Ring. They think it's intrusive. So I'm not here to debate that. That's for other people to talk about. I'm here to talk about this contest, which I think will come up with zero winners. I mean, there will be there's a sub contest here where people could win $500 for dressing up in goofy alien costumes, and whoever's the best one, the best ones will win $500 gift cards for Amazon. But outside of that, there's going to be no $1 million winner. I can almost assure you. Actually, I hope there is, right? But I don't think there will be, because if you're a person who actually films a real live extraterrestrial with your Ring camera, it needs to be scientifically proven somehow that it is extraterrestrial. I don't know how that would be accomplished. But anyway, let's go through this article. It says here, Ring is cashing in on the UFO craze to promote its surveillance dystopia. The $1 million sighting contest will reward people for putting up cameras in their home and capturing irrefutable proof of extraterrestrials. Amazon has a new plan to promote its Ring surveillance cameras. Pay people who use their intrusive cameras to capture proof of alien life. The contest, Ring $1 million sighting, will run during the spooky month of October. One lucky contestant will win $1 million, but only if they capture scientific evidence of an extraterrestrial sighting. Sensors have been picking up rogue signals from the neighborhood nebula. Might be nothing, might be something, explains the contest's website. Anyone who's set up cameras in their home has a chance to enter and win the big prize. But, according to Amazon's strict definitions, users may have trouble claiming the prize. Let me tell you something, they're going to have big time trouble claiming the prize. Because let me say this, even if they do film something that's extraterrestrial, even if somehow this were to happen, how are you going to prove it? How are you going to prove it in this day and age? I just don't see how you could. Anyway, the $1 million sighting contest is Amazon's latest scheme to make people think of Ring cameras as wacky and fun instead of frightening and paranoid. In 2022, it launched a television show called Ring Nation that's like America's Funniest Home Videos built from porch cams. Sold as a home safety device, Ring is really great at violating your neighbor's privacy and delivering footage to cops without your consent. The American suburb is a paranoid place, and Ring plays on those fears to sell cameras and generate reams of data for Amazon to sell. Advocacy groups petitioned the FTC to ban the cameras in 2021, but the plea failed. Meanwhile, Amazon has continued to expand its partnerships with police departments, making it easier for the cops to see what Ring users have recorded. Extraterrestrial. This talks about the contest here and what it means. What extraterrestrial means. It means any life in the universe originating or occurring outside Earth or its atmosphere. The extraterrestrial must take up physical space in order to be perceived by humans or cameras and have sufficient technology to be capable of traveling to and surviving within Earth's atmosphere. See right here. This is a joke. This whole contest, as far as I'm concerned, is a joke. The contest defines scientific evidence as, quote, an unaltered video with audio recorded with a Ring device, end quote, that meets some very specific criteria. Quote, the extraterrestrial exhibiting unusual, extraordinary, or unexplainable behavior, an explanation of why the anomaly is necessarily extraterrestrial in origin. The scientific evidence must unequivocally rule out any known explanations or any new Earth-based phenomena as an explanation, e.g., equipment malfunction, known aerial objects, atmospheric phenomena, recently discovered terrestrial species, and the scientific evidence must demonstrate that there was no alteration or malfunction of the Ring device on which it was captured, end quote. Now, that's a tall order, maybe there'll be some people out there who'll try to hoax this just to get that $1 million. Continuing here, it says, anyone who manages to capture the first hard evidence that America is being visited from beyond is entitled to $1 million paid out in $50,000 installments every year for the next 2 decades. And well, let me just stop right there. If I were to capture an extraterrestrial on a camera, I think I'd rather have the $1 million right up front, right? I mean, why 2 decades? I don't know if I'll make it 2 decades. $50,000 a year, okay, that's nice and everything, but I mean, I'd rather want that $1 million right now. I mean, I'm sure Amazon should have no problem with that. I mean, they have a lot of money. But don't worry, people who dress like an alien and goof off in front of the surveillance device they installed on their porch have a chance to win a $500 Amazon gift card. Having cameras plastered over our neighborhoods that automatically send footage to the police is bad, but at least we might get some wacky footage of kids dressed up as aliens, narrated by Wanda Sykes. Some people will win the $500 gift card for sure, right? Because I mean, there's going to be people dressing up, and some of the best costumes will win the $500 gift cards for sure. But no one's going to win the $1 million. No way. I mean, if anybody were somehow able to capture something on video in this day and age that somehow is scientific, that later on gets scientifically proven, that it becomes scientifically proven to be extraterrestrial, if one person was able to do that somehow, that would be amazing. Because in this day and age, with CGI and special effects and the internet and everything else, I mean, that just seems impossible to me. To me, The only way we're going to end this debate at this time is when the absolute end-all proof, the physical evidence, is presented to the world, and members of the scientific community are allowed to examine it and authenticate it. That's the only way. I mean, you're going to have actually have an extraterrestrial craft in hand and or extraterrestrial bodies or a live alien. The best evidence would be a live alien. But you're not going to, that's not going to happen with these ring cameras. It would have happened already. I mean, again, the best evidence we've had so far is those Turkey UFO videos. These extraterrestrials are very careful. They like to maintain their secrecy. Obviously, some of them are definitely up to something here on this planet, and they don't want anyone to know what they're doing. And then on top of it, you got to worry about the government, people. There's factions within the government, the secret control group, that they don't want anyone to know either. It's like they're all working in concert with each other. That's what it seems like. Of course, you got to understand if the aliens are up to something. Like say, for instance, like say the aliens are up to some sort of a hybridization program. You can understand the reasons why they would want to be secret. And then you could also understand if a government recovers a crashed extraterrestrial craft and/or bodies, and they want to try to reverse engineer that craft, so they could get the upper hand on enemy countries. Well, you could understand why they want to keep it secret too. And plus, they don't want to have to deal with the questions from the public on why you were keeping it secret for all these decades. That's another reason. And the panic that it will cause among some people, not many, but some. So you see the reasons from both sides of it. But if there are people out there, creative people who have some money and the wherewithal, and they're able to think outside the box, I believe there are ways that so as regular citizens could end this debate. I do believe that. I think that there are things that could be done. There are things that could be tried. For instance, you could, if somebody, some smarty pants were to focus on some of the hot spots, like some of the places where these beings go to mutilate cattle on a regular basis. If you were to focus on there and come up with a plan, a scheme, something that nobody's ever thought of before, you might be able to finally get that evidence. Of course, I think it would be a gargantuan effort. It would require, for one thing, you'd have to think of things that nobody ever thought of before to do this. You can't just sit out there with a camera in the woods and wait for something to show up. You have to come up with that evidence, that hard evidence somehow. If they're going to mutilate cattle, like for instance, I've been talking over the past year. There's been mutilations in Texas and in Oklahoma, in New Mexico, in Colorado, in Australia, all over the world. There's different hot spots where cattle are regularly mutilated on a regular basis, and there's nothing that anybody could do about it. In the end, you just have ranchers scratching their heads and they don't know what to say. You have the local police saying, "Well, we don't know what it is. It must be satanic cults or something like that." You have that going on, right? But we all know, a lot of us know that in a lot of these cases, not all, but in a lot of these cases, right, it is extraterrestrials are responsible. So if somebody were to think outside the box and has that wherewithal and has that money and has the resolve, something could be done, something could be accomplished. And I think the best thing that could ever happen would be to capture a live extraterrestrial. That would be that would end it, right? You'd have to have all your ducks lined up though too, because you have to understand that if somebody were to do that, right, there would be governments paying attention. The secret control groups around the world would be paying attention, and you would have to get that information out to the world somehow before anybody could intervene and stop you from doing so. There has to be some things that can be done to finally get that end-all evidence, because I know, as many people know, millions of people know for a fact that there is an extraterrestrial presence here, and there needs to be an end to this nonsense already instead of playing these stupid games. So if somebody's out there who has the wherewithal, the money, and the resolve, right, there are things that can be done. You need to put an expert crack team together, and I'm not talking about putting together some TV show like Skinwalker Ranch and making it a continuing saga for people to watch on cable television. I'm not talking about something like that. I'm talking about actually doing it in complete secrecy, some sort of a project to actually capture one of these creatures alive, or one of the crafts. Something. There are things that might be able to be that might be possible, but you got to really think about it. There are things, I believe, that can be done. And I think that I would like for someone to do it already, because I'm sick of the cover-up. I'm tired of this government cover-up. I know that they're lying. I know that they're keeping things secret, and we're all tired of it. I mean, we have the whistleblowers. We're doing this slow disclosure thing, but I want to move on with it. There are ways. There are things that could be done to get that evidence, that I think that some people out there who have the money and the resolve, they could do it. They could think of something, I'm sure. I have ideas of my own, but I wouldn't bring them up online, because I wouldn't want anyone to know. I think that you would have to come up with these ideas and talk about them privately, right? Among a closely knit group, and that information would not be able to get out to anywhere else. And then you would have to move forward with your plan, and hopefully, maybe, it would work. I think there are things that could be done, though. I think it could be done, but you don't want to show your hand, to the government, to the secret control group, or the extraterrestrials in which you're trying to actually capture. I think capturing a live one would be the best thing that could possibly happen. Capturing a live extraterrestrial is that would end it. That would be the end of it. If you had a live extraterrestrial being and you were to present that being to the world, that would end this debate. Show it to the scientific community, present it to the scientific community. That would be it. It would be over. Anyway, moving on. I want to talk about something I saw on Twitter today. And this is from UFO debunker Mick West, disingenuous Mick West. Now, Cynthia Hind, she was the very first UFO researcher to interview the kids in Zimbabwe in 1994 after the Ariel School UFO incident. A lot of you out there probably remember seeing her in some of those archival videos from that time, the archival reports, a lot of documentaries she's in. And she put out a book in the 90s called UFOs Over Africa. And on the back of that book, Mick West has a picture of the back of the book, and one part of it he has underlined. Anyway, it says here, in UFOs Over Africa, Africa's foremost ufologist sums up, this is the back of the book, this is what it talks about Cynthia Hind and what this book is about. It says, in UFOs Over Africa, Africa's foremost ufologist sums up in detail a lifetime of work spent in the careful investigation of a host of most unusual cases. Whether she is leading us on the spot through the strange appearance of several silvery suited aliens and unique light phenomena at the La Rochelle estate, uncovering the fraudulent crash scenario of the James Van Grumman case, or meticulously working her way through the abduction chronology of two wealthy Johannesburg women, Cynthia Hind always upholds the highest standards of the scientific researcher. She remains unflappable, virtually foolproof, but open-minded to the end. And here's the part that Mick West underlines and then provides a comment to. But the underlined part says, her trademark is the extended and repeated interview where heretofore unretrieved and forgotten facts are often brought to the subject's conscious mind by gentle and persistent prodding. Here for the first, that was the part that was underlined. Then he had a comment that he says, and he says, this is how to implant or reinforce false memories in kids. So now Mick West, who I guess over a year ago, he promoted the theory that the Ariel kids, what they actually saw was a traveling puppeteer troupe with magical marionettes that could read people's, actually implant telepathic messages into kids' minds, right? And that was the theory that he was promoting. Now he's saying how this is what he's suggesting now, is that Cynthia Hind, this researcher, implanted and reinforced false memories in kids based on what it says on the back of the book, which probably she didn't even write, right? But it doesn't matter. We all saw the videos of her interviewing those kids, right? And which she didn't do any. She didn't implant anything. She asked questions, and the kids provided answers. Just like John Mack, the Harvard professor who later interviewed the kids later on after Cynthia Hind came over. Same thing. So this is another thing. He can't believe it. He doesn't want to accept it. and he wants to put out information like this. He wants to put out this information calms the dum-dums who follow him, people like him. This gives the cult following of Mick West. Oh, thank God! It was just. It gives them like an excuse. It gives them something to relax. This tells them it's not true. The Ariel School incident isn't true because this Cynthia Hind implanted and reinforced false memories in these kids, which is totally bogus. Because as we know, all these 60 plus kids, after all these years, 30 years almost now, are still telling the same story. But Mick West, he can't deal with it, and he wants his followers to believe the nonsense that he believes, because he can't accept it. Anyway, I responded to this. I said, nothing to see here, folks. It's just Mick West trying to rewrite reality yet again. He hates the truth about the phenomenon. He'll do and say anything to make the easily manipulated among us believe in the phony narrative he's constructed in his own mind. That's the truth, folks. This guy's a clown. And for some reason, he's been elevated by people in the mainstream news and magazines as some sort of expert. This guy's no expert, right? He's a disingenuous clown. Mick West is a disingenuous clown. And he should not be getting this special treatment from the mainstream media and be treated like some sort of expert. The guy is a clown. He doesn't do any research. He just pontificates. He just comes up, sits in his armchair, and just comes up with bogus proclamations. That's all he does. And he's doing it again because he can't accept it. He doesn't want to accept it. But let me tell you, folks, it is real. I know for a fact it's real. Okay, moving on. How to get that out of my system. How to get it out of my system. All right, moving on. I want to do an update on the most recent Spotify polls that I have run. For the last two I'm going to look at here. For the episode called Insider's Timeline, UFO Disclosure by Early 2025, Alien Invasion in 2027, I asked this question: do you believe former CIA official John Ramirez's assertion that extraterrestrials will show themselves to the world in 2027? Now, for one thing, unfortunately, I spelled John's name wrong. I was typing too fast, and I have an A there instead of an O in John. But everyone knew who I was talking about. But there's been 75 votes so far. 30 people, or 40%, say yes, while 45 people, or 60%, say no. I don't believe that either. I have to go with the majority on this one because I don't like when people throw out dates. To me, it's like, every time I see stuff like that, the first thing that comes to mind is like some guy standing out in the street corner with a long beard and a wooden sign on his wrapped around his neck, a rope around his neck with a wooden sign under it that says "The end is nigh," and he's talking about the end of the world is going to happen next month or something. While he's ringing a bell. That's how I see it. To me, that seems nutty. I don't know how anybody can come up with dates like this or years and say it's going to be in 2027. That's when it will be. That's when the extraterrestrials will show their faces. They'll show themselves finally in that year. And that, my friends, is why we are having this slow disclosure right now. The governments are getting the world prepared for the year 2027. I don't believe in that kind of stuff. I'm sorry. I apologize to those out there who do, but I do not. I do not. Okay, moving on. For the episode Secret UFO Control Group Zodiac, exposed in not-so-fictionalized magazine stories, I asked this question: what is your favorite alleged name for the secret UFO control group? Okay, this is from yesterday. There's only 37 votes so far, but we'll go through them here. 2 people, or 5.4%, say Project Saucer. 5 people, or 13.5%, say Zodiac. 6 people, or 16.2%, say Aquarius, while 24, or 64.9%, say Majestic 12 / MJ12. I go with the majority on this one too. I like Majestic 12. I think that I actually think that that's what it was called, at least initially, at least in the early years. I do believe in some of the. I've talked about in previous episodes. I agree with the late Stanton Friedman that some of those, and also Ryan and Robert Wood, the father and the son and father team. Ryan's the son, Robert Wood's the father, who've researched this stuff. I believe that some of the Majestic 12 documents, particularly the early ones that were leaked, the original ones in the early 80s, and then in 1990 there was another document that was released. I believe that some of those documents were real, and I believe Majestic 12 was the name of the control group, at least at one time. Was it changed to Zodiac at some point in the future, or was that just a creation of the author of that group of that series of magazine stories that appeared in UFO magazine back in 1998? I don't really know, but I do believe that at some point, or at one point at least, it was called MJ12. I believe that wholeheartedly, and I believe that some of the MJ12 documents that were leaked were actually true and told a true story. But anyway, yeah, so getting back to what the main story was about tonight, the Ring cameras, I mean, good luck. Good luck to people out there who own Ring surveillance cameras. I don't think anyone's going to win. I don't see how anybody could prove, if they do film an extraterrestrial, how are you going to scientifically prove it is an extraterrestrial? I don't think that's going to happen. But there are other things that could be done. There is other ways to, I believe, to actually get the evidence that we need to end this whole thing. Because obviously the governments are still fighting us. There is most certainly factions within the government that do not want the truth to be told. And so we need this. We can't. We have to do this without them. I mean, we do have some scientists right now, like Avi Loeb, who's doing his own research. Maybe he'll come up with something at some point, but I just don't know. I think what we need, right? We don't need stuff. We don't need stuff that crashed into the sea back in 2015. That like Avi Loeb was researching. We need an actual alien, right? We don't need an ancient 1,000-year-old preserved body like Jaime Maussan presented in Mexico recently. We don't need that. What we need is a live extraterrestrial. I believe if there has to be some people out there with the wherewithal, money, and resolve to do something about this. I think that something can be done. There are things that can be done if you focus particularly on some of the cattle mutilation hotspots. You might be able to come up with gold on that one and end all of this. End this thing. Bring it to an end already. Forget what the government's telling people. We need to bring the whole world into the reality of the situation rather than to have them living in this Alice in Wonderland situation, this Mr. Rogers fantasy land. We got to bring this to an end. The land of make-believe is that what we're living in right now. Most people don't know the truth that we are not alone, and it's time that the whole world knows the truth, and it's time for the entire scientific community to be studying this rather than being scared to look at it because of the stigma surrounding it. Anyway, I want to say thank you all for joining me. Until next time.